Part 1, The Arrival of the Unknown. The Galactic Station's Medical Hub. The Galactic Station's military hospital buzzed with activity as medics rushed to treat the influx of wounded soldiers from the latest skirmish. Among the chaos, a striking alien nurse named Lyra, with shimmering sapphire skin and silver hair, focused intently on her newest patient, a human male with jet black hair and a chiseled jawline. Humans were still a novelty in the galactic community, and Lyra couldn't help but marvel at the alien male's exotic features as he lay unconscious before her. A mysterious patient. Lyra glanced at his chart, noting his stable condition despite a severe blow to the head. The lead doctor, a stern figure named Commander Valen, instructed her to follow standard sponge bath protocol. Lyra nodded, gathering the necessary supplies. As an aspiring nurse, she took pride in providing the best care, even to these strange new allies. An unexpected discovery. As she began gently cleansing the human's battered body, Lyra found her gaze lingering on his sculpted muscles, so different from her species' lithe physique. A warmth spread through her as she wondered what it might feel like to be held in his powerful arms. Shaking off the inappropriate thought, she moved lower, delicately running the sponge along his legs. Suddenly, she gasped, jumping back in shock. Between the human's legs, something was growing, swelling at an alarming rate. Panic and confusion. In all her studies, Lyra had never seen anything like it. Panic seized her as she cried out, "Doctor, come quickly. I think the patient is coding." Commander Valen rushed over, took one look, and burst out laughing. Soon, the entire medical staff joined in. "Oh, Lyra," an older nurse chuckled, "that's no code. That's just his little soldier standing at attention. A lesson in human biology." Lyra stared at them, perplexed. "I don't understand. Is this not a sign of impending death in humans?" Commander Valen grinned. "Far from it. It's a perfectly normal biological response. Human males have quite the impressive equipment down there. Congratulations, Nurse Lyra. It appears your gentle touch was more stimulating than you realized." A blush of embarrassment. Mortified, Lyra felt her cheeks burn bright blue. She'd never live this down. Determined to maintain some shred of dignity, she straightened her shoulders and returned to her task, pointedly ignoring the snickers and knowing looks from her colleagues. As she finished the bath, Lyra couldn't help sneaking a few more curious glances at the human's mysterious swelling. She had so many questions but didn't dare voice them. A growing fascination. Days passed, and Lyra found herself volunteering for every shift to care for the human soldier. She told herself it was to make up for her earlier blunder, but deep down, she knew there was more to it. Something about this man called to her. Late one night, as Lyra adjusted his pillow, the human's eyes fluttered open, locking onto hers. A connection forms. "Where am I?" he rasped, his voice husky from disuse. Lyra swallowed hard, her heart racing. "You're safe in the hospital," she managed. "You were wounded in battle. We've been caring for you." A weak smile tugged at his lips. "Well, I must have died and gone to heaven because I'm looking at an angel." A spark ignites. Lyra's blush returned with a vengeance. She wasn't sure if it was a compliment or delirium talking, but she couldn't deny the thrill his words sent through her. Just then, Commander Valen entered, interrupting the charged moment. "Ah, Sergeant Kale, glad to see you've rejoined the land of the living," he said jovially. "You gave us quite the scare, especially poor Lyra here. She thought your morning glory was a sign you were knocking on death's door." A playful banter. The doctor laughed at his own joke, and to Lyra's surprise, Kale joined in with a good-natured chuckle. He turned to her, a mischievous glint in his eye. "Well, Nurse Lyra, I'd be more than happy to give you a chance to get better acquainted with my swelling sometime. A new chapter begins." Lyra felt her cheeks burn even hotter, but she couldn't tear her gaze away from the tantalizing bulge beneath the sheets. She bit her lip, a seductive gleam in her eye as she met Kale's smoldering stare. Maybe this mortifying mix-up was the start of something unexpectedly thrilling. Part 2, The Healing Touch. A new routine. As Sergeant Kale began his long road to recovery, Lyra eagerly volunteered to oversee his physical therapy sessions. She told herself it was purely professional interest, but the electric tingle she felt whenever she was near him suggested otherwise. Kale grinned as Lyra entered the therapy room, his eyes roaming appreciatively over her lithe form. A flirtatious start. "Well, hello there, my favorite nurse," Kale drawled. "Ready to whip me back into shape?" Lyra fought back a blush, determined to maintain a semblance of decorum. "Of course, Sergeant. We'll start with some basic stretches to improve your mobility." A growing attraction. As she guided him through the exercises, Lyra couldn't help but admire the way Kale's muscles flexed and rippled beneath his skin-tight workout clothes. She found herself lingering just a bit longer than necessary when adjusting his posture, relishing the feel of his firm body beneath her fingertips. Kale, for his part, seemed to be enjoying the attention immensely. A playful challenge. "Phew, you're really putting me through my paces, nurse," Kale groaned, his face contorting in exaggerated expressions of effort. "I might need some extra special care after this." Lyra rolled her eyes, even as a smile tugged at her lips. "I think you'll survive, tough guy. Now, let's move on to some resistance training." A tempting offer. She handed him a set of elastic bands, deliberately brushing her fingers against his as she did so. Kale's breath hitched at the contact, his pupils dilating with unmistakable desire. As he began the exercises, Lyra found it increasingly difficult to tear her gaze away from the enticing bulge that strained against his shorts with each movement. A bold move. Kale noticed her staring and shot her a wicked grin. "See something you like, nurse?" Lyra's cheeks flushed a deep blue, but she couldn't resist rising to his challenge. "Just admiring your form, Sergeant. You seem to be making excellent progress." A close encounter. "Well, I do aim to impress," Kale drawled, flexing his biceps for emphasis. "But I think I might need some hands-on assistance with my next set." Heart pounding, Lyra stepped closer, placing her hands on his hips to guide him through a series of squats. The heat of his body seeped into her palms, igniting a fire within her. A moment of vulnerability. As Kale straightened up from a particularly deep squat, he suddenly lost his balance, tumbling backward and pulling Lyra with him. They landed in a tangled heap on the exercise mat, Lyra sprawled across Kale's chest. For a moment, they simply stared at each other, panting heavily, their faces mere inches apart. A passionate confession. "I guess I fell for you," Kale murmured, his voice low and husky. Lyra swallowed hard, her entire body thrumming with need. "Sergeant, we shouldn't," but Kale silenced her protest with a searing kiss, his lips claiming hers with a passion that left her breathless. A forbidden love. Lyra melted into his embrace, all thoughts of propriety flying out the window as she lost herself in the exquisite sensations he awakened within her. Kale's hands roamed her body, leaving trails of fire in their wake. Lyra gasped as he cupped her breasts, his thumbs teasing her nipples through the thin fabric of her uniform. A risky encounter. Just as Kale began tugging at the zipper of her jumpsuit, a loud cough from the doorway startled them apart. Lyra leaped to her feet, hastily smoothing her hair and clothing, while Kale sat up with a sheepish grin. "I hope I'm not interrupting anything," the doctor said, arching an eyebrow at their disheveled state. A new understanding. "Not at all," Lyra replied, her voice an octave higher than usual. "We were just working on some core strengthening exercises." The doctor looked unconvinced but simply shook his head and chuckled. "Well, carry on then. But do try to keep it professional, you too." A promise of more. As the doctor left, Lyra turned to Kale, her face burning with embarrassment and unfulfilled desire. "We can't do this again, she whispered. It's too risky. Kale reached out, tucking a stray lock of hair behind her ear with a tenderness that made her heart ache. But it feels so right, he murmured. I've never wanted anyone the way I want you, Lyra. A hopeful future. Lyra closed her eyes, torn between duty and passion. She knew falling for a patient was a recipe for disaster, but how could she resist the magnetic pull she felt toward this man? With a sigh, she stepped back, putting some much-needed distance between them. Let's just focus on getting you healed, Sergeant. One step at a time. A determined heart. Kale nodded, a rueful smile playing on his lips. As you wish, nurse. But just know that I'm not giving up on us that easily. As Lyra resumed guiding him through the therapy exercises, she couldn't shake the feeling that her life had just gotten a whole lot more complicated, and a whole lot more exciting. Part 3, Secrets and Desires. A Forbidden Obsession. Lyra couldn't stop thinking about Sergeant Kale and the undeniable chemistry between them. His roguish charm and playful flirtations had gotten under her skin in the most delightful way. She found herself looking forward to their physical therapy sessions more and more, craving any excuse to be near him. A shocking discovery. One day, as Lyra was heading to Kale's room for their scheduled appointment, she heard a strange noise coming from the adjoining bathroom. Concerned that he might have fallen or injured himself, she rushed in without knocking. The sight that greeted her made Lyra's jaw drop and her cheeks flush a deep blue. A bold invitation. There, in the shower, stood Kale in all his naked glory, his impressive swelling on full display as he pleasured himself with long, languid strokes. Lyra let out a strangled squeak of surprise, causing Kale's head to snap up. Their eyes locked, and for a moment, they simply stared at each other, frozen in shock. A playful banter. Then Kale grinned, completely unabashed. Well, hello there, nurse. Care to join me? Lyra's blush intensified, and she quickly averted her gaze. I'm so sorry, Sergeant. I thought you might be hurt, and I didn't mean to intrude. A tempting offer. Kale chuckled, turning off the water and reaching for a towel. No need to apologize, gorgeous. I'm more than happy to give you a private show anytime. Lyra stammered out a few more apologies before fleeing the bathroom, her heart racing and her mind reeling. A growing attraction. Later, during their therapy session, Lyra tried to act as if nothing had happened, but she couldn't quite meet Kale's eyes. He, on the other hand, seemed to be enjoying her flustered state immensely. As she guided him through a series of stretches, Kale leaned in close, his breath hot against her ear. A playful tease. You know, if you wanted a closer look at my anatomy, all you had to do was ask, Kale teased. Lyra's hands faltered, and she nearly lost her grip on his leg. Sergeant, please. I'm trying to maintain a professional demeanor here. A heartfelt confession. Kale grinned, unrepentant. And I'm trying to get you to loosen up a bit, nurse. We both know there's something special between us. Why fight it? Lyra sighed, torn between her growing feelings for Kale and her duty as a medical professional. A hopeful future. It's not that simple, Lyra whispered. I have responsibilities, and you're my patient. It wouldn't be right. Kale sat up, his expression turning serious. Lyra, I understand your reservations, but life is too short to deny ourselves a chance at happiness. I'm not just looking for a fling here. I genuinely care for you. A tender moment. Lyra's heart swelled at his words, and she found herself leaning into his touch as he cupped her cheek. I care for you too, Kale. More than I probably should. Kale smiled, a tender, hopeful thing. Then let's see where this takes us. No pressure, no expectations. Just two people exploring the connection between them. A leap of faith. Lyra hesitated for a moment longer before throwing caution to the wind and pressing her lips to his in a sweet, gentle kiss. Cale responded eagerly, pulling her closer and deepening the kiss until they were both breathless. A new beginning. When they finally parted, Lyra rested her forehead against his, a giddy smile on her face. "I suppose we can give this a shot. But we have to be discreet. I don't want to jeopardize my job or your recovery." Cale grinned, stealing another quick kiss. "Your secret is safe with me, nurse. Now, about that private anatomy lesson. A playful future." Lyra swatted his chest playfully, laughing despite herself. She knew pursuing a relationship with Cale would be a challenge, but somehow, she had a feeling it would be worth every obstacle. Together, they could overcome anything. Part 4, Love in the Stars. A growing bond. As the days turned into weeks, Lyra and Cale's love only grew stronger. With their relationship out in the open, they no longer had to hide their affections, and they reveled in the freedom to express their feelings openly. Cale's recovery progressed remarkably well, thanks in no small part to Lyra's tender care and unwavering support. A future together. As he regained his strength and mobility, Cale began to think about the future, a future that he couldn't imagine without Lyra by his side. One afternoon, while Lyra was busy with her rounds, Cale enlisted the help of his fellow soldiers and hospital staff to plan the perfect proposal. A romantic surprise. They worked tirelessly, decorating the hospital gardens with twinkling lights, soft music, and a canopy of stars projected onto the ceiling. Cale himself spent hours rehearsing his speech, wanting to get every word just right. When the moment finally arrived, Cale took Lyra by the hand and led her to the gardens, his eyes shining with love and nervousness. A heartfelt proposal. Lyra gasped as she took in the breathtaking scene before her. The gardens had been transformed into a romantic wonderland, with soft lights casting a warm glow over the flowers and trees. "Cale," she breathed, her eyes wide with wonder. "What is all this?" "A promise forever." Cale smiled, his heart swelling with love and pride. "This, my love, is for you. A small token of my affection and gratitude for everything you've done for me." He led her to a bench nestled beneath a canopy of stars, his hands trembling slightly as he took a deep breath. "A love story. Lyra," he began, his voice thick with emotion. "From the moment I first opened my eyes and saw your beautiful face, I knew my life would never be the same. You've been my rock, my guiding light, and my reason for fighting to get better. A new chapter." Lyra's eyes glistened with tears as she listened to his words, her heart pounding in her chest. Cale reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box, his hands shaking with nervous excitement. "Lyra, I can't imagine spending another day without you by my side. I want to wake up every morning to your beautiful smile and fall asleep every night with you in my arms. A dream come true." He opened the box, revealing a stunning ring that sparkled with the brilliance of 1,000 stars. "Lyra, my love, my soulmate, will you marry me? Will you be my partner, my lover, and my best friend for the rest of our lives?" A joyful yes. Tears streamed down Lyra's face as she nodded, her voice choked with emotion. "Yes, Cale. Yes, 1,000 times yes." He slipped the ring onto her finger, his own eyes glistening with tears of joy. They embraced, their hearts beating as one, their love a force that could conquer any obstacle. A bright future. As they pulled apart, Cale grinned, a mischievous glint in his eye. "You know, Lyra, I promise to shock you with my swelling for the rest of our lives together." Lyra burst out laughing, playfully swatting his chest. "You just had to bring that up, didn't you? A love that endures." Cale chuckled, pulling her close once more. "Hey, it's a part of our history now. The day you first discovered the wonders of human anatomy." Lyra blushed, burying her face in his chest. "I was so naive back then. I can't believe I thought you were dying." A journey together. Kale pressed a tender kiss to the top of her head, his voice soft and sincere. But look at how far we've come since then. You've learned so much, not just about human biology, but about love, trust, and the strength of the human spirit. A love that shines. Lyra looked up at him, her eyes shining with love and admiration. And you've taught me the true meaning of courage, resilience, and unwavering devotion. I'm so proud of the man you are, Kale, and I'm honored to be your future wife. A love that conquers all. They sealed their engagement with a passionate kiss, their bodies molding together as if they were made for each other. The stars above them seemed to shine even brighter, as if the universe itself was celebrating their love. A love that lasts forever. As they walked hand in hand back to the hospital, Lyra couldn't stop admiring the ring on her finger, a symbol of their unbreakable bond. She knew that their journey together was just beginning, a journey filled with laughter, love, and endless surprises, including the occasional shocking swelling. But they wouldn't have it any other way.